Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Creating Rhythms and Routines for Home and Family. I'm Abby Horton, and it's so nice to be with y'all this morning. I'm just going to give a couple of more minutes for people to join as I do some just housekeeping announcements. But if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the Q&A box. It's going to be on your taskbar, which may be at the top or the bottom of your screen. But you're welcome to say good morning or talk to others in the chat, or just kind of give some feedback. You're welcome to use the chat for that. But if you've got questions that you'd like for me to answer, I would love for you to put those in the Q&A box as you think of them. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll take time to actually go through those and answer those for y'all. And so for those of you who are joining the call this morning live, you will receive your Wellbeing class credit. And so just make sure that you verify that that credit gets made for you. So this recording will be posted on the wellness site, and the other two presentations that we did on Thursday and then yesterday are already up for you to view. So that's wellness.ua.edu, and so we'd love for you to check those out. These classes were designed to be standalone, but I do think that they build upon each other. And so some of you may be joining us for the first time, some of you this may be your second call, and some of you this may be your third call. And I know some of you may be joining on a computer or device where you can see the slides, and some of you have joined with your phones, which is great. So you may not be able to see some things. So I'm going to spell some things out just so that if you're not able to see it, that it will be helpful to you. But you can always go back and watch this. So we're trying to get these things posted on the website as quickly as possible so that you have these resources in real time. And thank you for the shout out about the background screen. UA was great to provide those. If any of you would like to download those are on UA's site. There's many options, but I did like the ivy elephant. All right, and so we'll go ahead then and get started with the PowerPoint. All right, so again, my name is Abby Horton. I am a registered nurse and faculty at the Capstone College of Nursing here at UA. I'm a certified health and life coach and a wellness ambassador for the Honors College and a wellness class educator. And so I'm really excited to be with y'all and share some experiences and some tips and tricks for making home and family work well for you while we're in this, remote distance learning and working season right now. And so again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box or say good morning on the chat box. And if you've got some resources that you just really feel like you need to get a little extra support, there are some resources, COVID-19 coping resources that Carolyn McVicker has put together, and those are on the HR site, and there's a link there on this slide. And so you're welcome to go and check those out. There's some great resources there for you. My contact information is abby.horton@ua.edu. So if you have any questions or you want to follow up on something with me, you're welcome to reach out. If I can help you, I'll be happy to. Also, if you have anything that you want to provide feedback on, that would be great as well. Feel free to take screenshots if you want. I think that's a great way to quickly kind of grab the information that you're wanting to use. And we'll go ahead. All right, one last announcement. The 5K that we were supposed to have for the wellness office this weekend had to be canceled, but we're offering a virtual 5K, 10K race option. You should have received a newsletter email about this yesterday, but we just want to encourage y'all to participate. You can run or walk the distance that you choose, 5K or 10K, and then take a photo, just a quick pic of your distance and your time, and post that to social media using the hashtags #WellBama, #CC25K. And we would love to see y'all do that virtual race this weekend. And I think it's a great option while we're social distancing, or physical distancing is probably more accurate. So for the webinar goals, we really just want to take time to think about creating really good routines and rhythms for your home and your family. And so this is going to build upon what we learned about in terms of stress management on Thursday's call last week and then yesterday in terms of working from home. And so I'm going to include some of that information in this presentation too. So it may be a little bit of an overlap for those of you who've seen the other calls, but I think it's important to mention just in case you didn't catch the others. And then we're going to talk about how to work from well from home and manage multiple responsibilities, talk about specific strategies that promote work-life balance, and just talk about how we can navigate this time together really well. So if you need some additional help, we want you to feel free to reach out. There's a lot of information, that's going around about resources during this COVID-19 crisis. But we want you to just do a really good self-check on making sure your mental well-being is okay. And so these are some things to ask yourself and really check in. Are you feeling more, angry or sad or overwhelmed? Are you feeling like not yourself? Are you having difficulty coping? Different things that you can ask to check in. And so just a way to think about, do I need to seek some additional mental health support? And then on this slide, it just talks about how to seek help. And so the university offers us a lot of resources for this, particularly through our EAP resources with American Behavioral Health. And so you've got options to see someone in person or via, video chat. Many counselors in Tuscaloosa are actually offering a virtual chat much like this if they're not offering in-person visits right now. You've got the wellness support chat, which is available 24/7, and just some other great resources there. So check these out if you have any questions or concerns and feel like you need some additional mental health support. And so this is a graphic that I really like to show that really talks about how we can control what we can control. I say that a lot because there's so much that feels like it's out of our control. And so the goal is not to eliminate all stress. The goal is not to eliminate all negative thoughts. And we certainly don't want to worry about things that we can't really control or, really change. And so in that third graphic, things that I can control, you can control yourself. You can control your attitude, your actions, your behaviors, your beliefs, what you eat, what you don't eat, who you follow, who you don't follow, the personal boundaries that you set up. Those are the things in your control. You can't control your partner, your spouse, your roommate, your family. You can't even control your children or your dog, right? And so, it's important to recognize that because so many times we think that we can control others when really we're wanting to get a sense of safety and security that we're not feeling. And so we can have this push to really want to control things that aren't really within that realm of control or possibility. And sometimes we can control things that aren't important. And so that last graphic talks about focusing on what we can control, but also the things that matter. So, maybe some things that you can control aren't important right now. Maybe it's not important that, if you have a young family, maybe it's not important that you can control what, pajamas your child is wearing right now. Maybe they do wear the same pajamas for 7 or 8 days in a row, and you would prefer that they would change into, regular play clothes. Well, that's something you probably can control, but does that really matter in the grand scheme of things? That's a real world example for my life. I have 5 young children, and one of my little 7-year-olds, we have 7-year-old twins. One of my 7-year-olds is wearing the same pajamas, maybe for more than 8 days right now. But that's not so important at this moment that I make her change out of those favorite pajamas. So just some real world examples that we're going to throw in. I want this to feel really personable. I want it to feel like it's a conversation between us. And so we'll throw in those examples when it's appropriate. Mindset matters so much. We need to really acknowledge our feelings, and we're going to talk about kids a lot today. So if you don't have kids, make it apply to something else. Maybe maybe it's a partner, a spouse, a colleague. But when we're talking about family, we're going to talk about kids. Acknowledge your feelings, but also acknowledge your family members' feelings, whether that's, small children or whether it's, even college age kids or adult kids. Pursue a positive mindset. That's so important. Challenge any negative beliefs that you might have. It's so easy to give in to negative thinking, particularly if you're on social media right now. It can be very difficult to not get bogged down with all of the information, the onslaught of information that you can have today. Seek help when you need it, like we mentioned earlier. Take care of your mental and your physical health, which we'll talk about some ways to do that to support that health. Plan and prepare for the unexpected. That makes us feel better about things when we have uncertainties and unknowns. We so often try to control things like what pajamas our child wears, when really we're seeking, a sense of normalcy, and we're seeking, okay, can y'all hear me okay? Have I lost you? Okay, I think someone else, this is a shared account, so I think someone else tried to sign in to the account and it kicked me out, but y'all are still able to hear me. Okay, I'm sorry for that interruption. So, prioritizing tasks, being flexible, and just making sure that you practice really good self-care and staying informed without staying, so informed and so connected that you're overloaded. And so that's really important. And when we prepare and plan for the unexpected, we just want to make sure that we're trying to, plan for what's reasonable, not for what, might be catastrophic. So we're stockpiling some groceries and supplies, but we're not hoarding supplies. We want to make sure that we don't give in to so much negative thinking and stress in our plans and preparation that we feel like we can't have some sense of normalcy and control. So just think about those things when it relates to your particular situation. We can often go overboard with things just because we want that sense of control and safety. And so when we reflect, these are some reflection questions that you can use. And remember to control what you can control. And so when we look back 6 months or a year from now, do we want to, say that we, kind of weathered this adversity or this challenge, in our pajamas, stressed out, eating a lot of cookies and snacks from the pantry, and, that we didn't really accomplish our goals or meet our goals? What do we want to be able to say when we look back on this time? And so sometimes we may not have a clear vision of what we want, to do or to get out of this experience, but we can think about what we don't want. And so, that may help you answer the question of what you want this time to look like in your life. And so ask yourself what opportunities exist in this situation. And so there are so many things that we can be, grieving right now. We might be worried about loved ones. We might be worried about finances. We might be concerned about birthday parties getting canceled. I know that we're walking through that. We have a set of 10-year-old twins. They're about to be 10 next week. And so we have 5 children ages 7 to 12, and we have 2 sets of twins. And so my boys are going to be turning 10 next week, and they're not going to be able to have a birthday party. And it's, double digits. And so that's pretty, upsetting as a mom, and it's upsetting to the kids. And so, we can grieve that. We can grieve graduations not happening. We can grieve, missed time with friends and colleagues. And so think about what opportunities exist in that situation. And so for us, we're framing it as a way to create new memories and making it really special. And we're not always able to, positively reframe things immediately, but I think if you can start to think about that, that will be really helpful for you, and not feeling so bogged down by the things that you can't control. And then think about what your expectations are for right now, for yourself and for your loved ones. I see a lot of people on social media and just, in friend groups and things, everyone's kind of frustrated with the people that they're living with, or there's some people who are living alone right now and they're feeling particularly isolated. And so what expectations do we have of ourselves and our relationships and our loved ones? And how would we show up for them if we were the best version of ourselves, which is question number 4. And then 5 is, what do we need to do to shift in order to be that best version of ourselves? So those are some things that you can jot down or take a screenshot of, and maybe come back to that this afternoon when you have some time and think about, okay, how do I want to show up with, with the best version of myself during this time? And it's going to change day to day. Yesterday was really a stressful day. There were a lot of things going on, and I thought, this is the first day that I've really felt the impact of the stress. But thankfully today I woke up and had just a really different mindset and was able to really get a lot accomplished this morning. And I think I attribute that to just getting up and doing some of the things I'm going to share with you that helped start my day off on a really good note. So some success strategies, I shared these yesterday, but I think that they apply here as well. Setting your alarm and getting up and getting ready for the day. I did that today. I actually dressed really casually this past week. I didn't have to get ready for the day, but today I decided to get dressed like I was actually going into the office, or like I was actually going to be teaching you today. So I have a dress on today. I have, shoes on. I don't have, casual sandals on. So those were some things that helped me reset today, and I would really encourage it for you, to get ready, get dressed all the way to your shoes like you're going into the office if you're having a difficult time getting in work mode. And then for me, I love to have my watch on. It signals to me as a nurse that I am in work mode, because I wear my shoes quite a bit around the house, and I will sometimes dress up even when I'm at home. But when I put my watch on, I know that I'm ready to work. And so for me, it's a watch. For you, it might be something else. Do a brain download or a brain dump and just jot down any important, ideas or items that you need to keep track of, and make to-do lists and prioritize those lists, because we can have pages and pages of things that we want to do, or things that we need to do, or things we want to accomplish. But if we don't prioritize those lists, we'll get overwhelmed, and then we might not get anything accomplished. And so pick 2 or 3, or maybe 3 to 5 things that you want to try to get done in the day, and be really flexible if those don't happen. Update your calendar and your planner with new deadlines. I know for me, my kids are involved in some activities, and this week, because it looks like we're going to be on extended, breaks from, dance classes and things like that, we have new calendar updates and deadlines now. And so, make sure that you're still using a calendar or planner if you've already had that habit, because I think it's important now more than ever, because we're so out of a routine. Make sure you have a dedicated workspace. And for those of you who have young children, I would say to try to have a space that there's a door that you can shut, because that gives some separation and it helps block the noise, and it just gives you a place that's your own space. But for some of you, you may not have that option. And that's okay. You can work even in an open space with kids and pets around. I've done that this week. So sometimes I'm at my kitchen table, sometimes I'm at my kitchen counter, but I do have a dedicated little work area in my house that I've set up, and that works really well too. So it just depends on the day and kind of the task that you've got to get done. But I think having that dedicated space is really helpful. Time block your schedule to complete your work. So, have chunks of time where you are, actually sitting down for 2 or 3 hour time blocks to get some things done. You'll feel really good about having, work done in categories, and really making sure that you're, dedicating that time. You won't feel so distracted or have as many disruptions if you can block out some time to get the most important things done, particularly in the morning, is helpful. And then, set deadlines for yourself. You may have more flexibility right now, but as humans, we really like to have structure. And so if you can give yourself deadlines and make those deadlines be sooner than your actual hard deadline. So if I had something due on Friday, then I would make my deadline be Wednesday, so that I have time if something comes up, particularly right now. where we have a lot going on, a lot of uncertainty, then I have a day or two to actually kind of recover if something comes up and I don't miss, I miss my deadline. That will give me some time to actually recover that. And then stay connected with your circle and with your colleagues at work. And so, you know, touching base, even though, you may not need anything, it might just be to say hello, it might just be to check in on them, particularly if you know someone is having a difficult time, or, someone that, maybe lives alone, they may need some extra support right now. And so checking on them, even just with a text message, is really helpful. Found an accountability buddy. So many times, we need that external accountability to be successful. But I think most of us need that when we're at home working and juggling multiple responsibilities. And so having someone that has a really similar situation to you can be helpful, because you're not as apt to compare yourself to them. So if you have someone that has young children and doesn't have much help at home, maybe their spouse or partner, is an essential employee and they don't have any help, and then you have someone who maybe doesn't have any children and, has a partner that's available to them, then there's going to be a comparison there. And it's going to be difficult for the person, probably on either side of that comparison. And so try to find someone who has similar goals, similar life circumstances to you during this time, to be a support to you and also to hold you accountable. So y'all can check in and make sure that you're staying, on task with things, that you're not, kind of living in your pajamas, or, that you're, not kind of withdrawing and not reaching out to people. So also take breaks. I think this really relates to stay motivated. When we get so hyper focused on something, it's going to be really difficult to actually stay motivated, because we're going to be more likely to burn out, and we're going to actually, in the long run, have to recover from that. So we're going to miss time with our family and at work when we don't stay motivated, when we don't take breaks, and when we don't check in. And then treat yourself well during this time and celebrate your small wins. And for you, a win right now might be totally different than when you have your typical work day. But a win might be that you woke up an hour early, that you tackled some of your emails, and that you got dressed to shoes and got out of your pajamas. That might be a win, and that's really important to actually celebrate and acknowledge. And then most importantly, ask for help, because we're all in this together. Routines and rhythms, I think these are some great things that you can incorporate. And then after this slide, we're really going to get into kind of the family aspect. So routines are important. We like to know what to expect, and we're more productive when we know what to expect. So try to structure your day to mimic your typical work day. And for all of us who are on the call, we will have a different probably work day, and that will look different. But that's okay. Try to structure your day at home like you would when you're at work, as best as you can. So for me, I get to sleep in a little bit later because I don't have the commute into work. So you might set your alarm, but you might get to set it for an hour later, and that's great. Go ahead and get up for the day, and then kind of structure your time in morning and afternoon time blocks, and I'll show you a sample schedule of that. And then make sure that you have a clear beginning and ending to your day. So make sure that it's really clear to you and clear to your family, or the ones that you're, kind of living life with right now. Make sure it's clear, because so much of our lives can kind of spill over into other areas when we're actually at home. So I think the clear beginning to the workday is probably something we're all doing, but we're probably not ending our day in a really great, clear way. And so we'll talk about that. And then create rhythms. So, today you might get up an hour later than you do, tomorrow, but you do the same set of things in the same order. And that's really where the rhythm comes in. And so you might get up an hour later, but you're still having breakfast, and then you're still, taking your shower, getting dressed, taking your vitamins, filling up your water bottle. And so these don't have to be tied to actual times, but it just needs to be the same flow so that you can really have a good sense of what to expect. And then make sure that when you're doing these things, referring to your to-do list so that you know what you need to get done, and then picking those tasks that are most important to do first. Plan today for tomorrow. So take time today to plan what you're going to do tomorrow. It doesn't feel as important to do that right now because you're not having to, get lunches ready or get kids out the door or, coordinate a lot of extra events right now and get in the car and commute to work. But it's still important to actually plan and prepare. And then set healthy boundaries for work and for home, because you can often get in a situation where you feel like you're being everything to everyone. And so having healthy boundaries is really important. And part of that is communicating your needs, not only to your spouse and partner, but to your family, to your kids. Most kids even understand healthy boundaries, even from a young age. And make sure that you know what your needs are. Sometimes we get frustrated and we feel overwhelmed, and it's because we're not actually even acknowledging what we actually need. And so do those things, and I think you'll see a big difference in your productivity and just your overall well-being. And then at the end of your day, take 30 minutes to actually tidy up your work area, because you can end up with lots of piles and things. I know that I typically do. And so tidy up your work area, write down some goals, for tomorrow. Check your to-do list to see what things, need to get done. What did you get done today? And then follow up on any unfinished work. Maybe you're waiting on an email or a phone call. Follow up on those things. Check your calendar, keep it updated, and then shut things down for the day. Have that clear ending to your work day, so that you kind of think of, okay, now I'm shifting into home mode. And you probably have some rituals when you get home from work, from your typical day at the university, and you don't have those right now. But because we're so habituated to doing certain things at certain times every day, we don't think about how much ritual and routine and habit there is in our day. And so when you feel a little off, it can be hard to figure out, okay, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do next? And so Carolyn McVicker shared a good story, a good example of this with me yesterday. And she said that a good friend of hers is wearing a hat. And so when she's wearing this hat, the kids know that she's actually working. And so this mom is wearing a leprechaun hat, which I think is really fun. My suggestion would be to actually have the parent, if you have a partner or spouse or parent with you that's co-parenting right now, would be for that person who's on as the parent to wear the hat, because otherwise you might be wearing a leprechaun hat on a Zoom call. But I think that's a really great visual, not only for yourself and your kids, but your spouse. It's a visual cue for you to know, okay, this is the person I need to go ask my question to. If I need an extra juice box, or if I need, to ask mom about the internet password or something, like, she's wearing the hat, so she's the person I need to go to. And that might be a really good tip for some of you. And it might be a good reminder, okay, now I'm in home mode. I've got the cute fun hat on, or whatever you decide to use for that. I was thinking I have some butterfly ears on a headband, and that would be really fun. The kids would probably really enjoy that. So let me know if you think that would be something that would be helpful. I think that's a great tip. And then working from home with kids, I think, when we look at all the things we have to do, we have to let some things fall off our plates right now. And perfection is certainly something that we don't need to, try to pursue. We need to make sure that we're just looking at progress, not perfection. And so we want to maintain flexibility. We want to make sure that we're communicating with everyone in our lives about what's going on with us, what our needs are, what our schedules are for the day. We want to offer, attention and presence to our kids and to our family whenever we can. We want to make sure that we're managing interruptions proactively. We want to give the kids, especially if we're dealing with young children, having to need some time and some, resources. We want to make sure that they're getting all the things that they need, and that they have something to occupy their time with while you're on a call or while you're working on something. And then we want to make sure that we're assigning household responsibilities. So think creatively about how you're going to navigate this transition and where you need help. So maybe you normally clean the kitchen up after dinner by yourselves, but maybe you can ask the kids to help with that. Maybe you can have someone be responsible for clearing the table, or someone loading the dishes, or any of those things could be really helpful right now. And then create margin in your day for the unexpected and unknowns. And so don't think that you can follow this strict, rigid, time-based schedule where you know that at 9 o'clock you're going to do this and 10 o'clock you're going to do that. There are going to be calls and Zoom webinars and different things that you have to do at a certain time, but the rest needs to be really flexible. And then take those breaks, and take breaks with your kids. Let your kids have breaks so that you're not going to have that burnout that we talked about early on. And just remember that this is temporary, okay? Can someone let me know in the chat if y'all are still following? Everything's still good on the sound? Perfect. Thanks, Miranda. Good. Okay, awesome. All right, so here's a sample schedule. So this is a schedule that you can adapt for yourselves and for your particular situation. I certainly am not an expert on your life. You are the expert of your lives. And so when you plan your day, think about this schedule and how you can adapt it. So this is kind of the ideal schedule, and I realize that this is not going to be ideal for everyone, okay? But for in the morning, think about having, if you have two adults in the house, whether it's a partner, a spouse, a parent, your parent, maybe it's a grandparent of the kids, however this looks for you. If there are two adults and you've got children that need care, then you can think about using this schedule. And I see, will we be sharing these PowerPoints? Yes, those will be available. Carolyn will make those available to y'all. And so 7 a.m., maybe this is a different time for you, but 7 to 8 have both adults kind of on. And so since I'm a nurse, we use the language of kind of clocking in and clocking out a lot with our kids. And so we've always done that. It's just been kind of something that we, use in a joking way to say mom is clocking in or clocking out. And so that's something that's been really helpful during this season, because I'm like, okay, I'm clocking into work, guys. Y'all have got to be quiet while I'm on this call. And so we're kind of clocked in. Both parents are on for the morning schedule. So 7 to 8, that might be breakfast. That might be, getting the kids, out of pajamas, whatever it is. And so y'all are both on. And then at 8, from 8 to noon, adult A. So I would be adult A this morning. I'm doing work and I'm doing personal time this morning. And then at noon, then we're both on again. So both adults are on for lunchtime and, breaks or whatever you need to do. And then maybe 1 to 5, then adult B is doing work and personal time. And so while adult A is working in the morning, adult B is caring for the kids and being available for them. And then vice versa, you swap in the afternoon. So that's not a perfect schedule. That may not work for you. And I know that there are so many of you who are probably, maybe having, a situation where your spouse or your partner is having to work and you're like, I don't have anyone to swap out with. And that's okay. You can adjust this. So it might be that you have an older, sibling that can help you. It might be that you can have someone FaceTime your kids while you're on a Zoom call. I know one of our former babysitters is doing that for parents. So the parent is handing the kids, and of course it'd have to be age appropriate, but handing the phone to FaceTime, and so she's babysitting virtually while the moms or dads are on calls or, doing Zooms or something. And so just get creative. So many times we think about, well, that's ideal and I can't do that. And I've done that myself, where I think, okay, I can't get up in the morning and make my bed, which is what all personal development, gurus tell you to do. Get up and make your bed and exercise an hour before you go to work. And I would hear that and think, I have to get up early as a nurse, and my husband gets up later than I do, so I can't do that. And I'd have that defeatist mindset. well, that doesn't work for me. You don't understand my situation. And then one day it just clicked. You know what? I may not can work out for an hour before I go to work because I already get up really early and I have young kids at home. I can't do that, but I can do 15 minutes. And I can't make my bed that like I would want to make my bed, but I can get up and I can make my side of the bed. You know, I don't have to wait for someone else to kind of help me with that. And so when I shifted from that kind of more negative, more kind of defeatist, always looking for the problem mindset and started thinking about, okay, well, it doesn't have to be perfect. And here's how I can change that. I want you to see all of these resources that I'm sharing with you like that, because I certainly am not going to offer something that works for every single one of you. And I certainly recognize that many of you may be having hardships that I don't cover, but I hope that some of this will be helpful. And then once you get to that 5 p.m. or so, and again, flexible times here, but then it's personal time. So you're thinking, from 5 to bedtime, it's personal time, it's family time. You can prepare dinner and you can have dance parties in the kitchen. You can do some fun things. You can walk the neighborhood. And then 9 p.m., you're going to have kind of a power down hour. And this is the only thing that I would say that I think would be really helpful for you to kind of stick with this actual time, because our bodies are designed to heal themselves between 10 and midnight in our sleep cycle. That's where we get the most restorative sleep. And so we talk a lot about getting enough hours of sleep, but we don't always talk about the quality of sleep. So preparing for bed at 9, kind of shutting off your phones, logging out of email, maybe check it one last time, limit that blue light exposure from devices and limit that technology, and maybe just do some gratitude journaling. Maybe that looks like a notebook paper and writing 3 things down that you're grateful for that day. And try not to just put, I'm grateful for my kids, I'm grateful for my spouse, I'm grateful for, something really generic, but maybe it's, I'm grateful that my partner brought me coffee this morning. I'm grateful that my kids were quiet while I was on this call. Do something really, really specific, and that is more meaningful and impactful in terms of feeling grateful and kind of changing your mindset. Okay, so set time limits. So I think this is important. We need to manage our time well so that we feel like we're doing a good job for ourselves and for our work and for our family. And so something that I started using when my kids were really young is a stoplight. And so kids kind of get that, concept of red, I need to stop, I need to pause. And so if you've got like a red circle of construction paper or maybe a stop sign on your door or your computer or your workspace, that's kind of going to be their visual cue, okay, not to interrupt mom or dad right now. Or maybe you're a grandparent on this call and maybe you're watching, grandchildren because your kids are essential employees. Great. That probably will work for grandkids too. And so put some sort of sign or notification on the door that says, stop or red or a stop sign for younger kids, and that'll be a key for them. Yellow, you can put that if you're working on something, but it's okay for them to interrupt for a few minutes. And then green is you're working, maybe you're just checking emails and it's fine for them to come in and ask you a question. Y'all, this is such a lifesaver. When my kids were really young, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I was working and in graduate school, I was crying on the phone to a friend who was a former school teacher, and she said, well, Abby, have you tried a stop sign? And I said, what do you mean? What is that? Why would I use a stop sign? And she said, put a stop sign on your door, and the kids probably will know you don't need to bother mommy right now. And, it was so simple, and I thought, I'm not going to do that. That they don't understand. They're too little. But it did work so well, and it really changed how I work and how I parent, because it made me question the assumptions of what my kids understand and what they don't. And I was wrong, and she was definitely right with that tip. It's a great one. So try that today if you need some uninterrupted time. Okay, so for home management, y'all, we have to really relax our expectations and our standards of what we can accomplish while we're at home, because we can't do all things for all people all the time, right? We have to prioritize self-care and rest, and you might get some projects accomplished while you're, at home during this season, and you might not, and that's okay. So, set realistic expectations, but relax your standards and realize that you may have to be really flexible about the things that you can get done. So, just because you're at home now does not mean that you have all the free time for you to organize your closet or your pantry. You might be able to, but you might not. And yes, I do follow Fly Lady. Fly Lady is an organizational, kind of tool and system for people who need help with home management. And so I think that's such a compliment. Thank you. I'm glad that I sound like Fly Lady. She has some great resources and tools online for free if you want to check her out. And assign tasks to even the youngest of helpers, based on the list of priorities for your home. And so do the minimum housework required, and do it for your peace of mind. So for me, it's really important that I don't have a lot of dirty dishes in my sink and I don't have cluttered countertops. But that doesn't bother my husband as much. He is more concerned about making sure that the house is picked up and there's not clutter in our living room or in our bedroom. And so for you, it might be that you need to do these certain tasks. For someone else in your family, it might be this other list of tasks. But just do the minimum housework that's required for your peace of mind and those that you live with. And then declutter and organize hot spots to increase your functionality. And so, if you know that you're constantly looking for your glasses or your car keys, or you know that you're constantly having to search for this type of piece of paper or something, then try to make sure that you create workarounds so that you're not constantly battling that situation. For me, I'm a visual organizer, and I would always have trouble, especially when my kids were really little. We had 5 kids under 5 years old at one point. My oldest was 4.5, and we had 2-year-olds and newborn twins. So 2-year-old twins, newborn twins, and we've always worked full or part-time for both me and my spouse. And I've always been in graduate school as a mom. And I'm still in graduate school. So I've always had a lot to juggle. And I would have a hard time remembering where my keys were. And, all of the things that we use for clutter and organization are really designed for people who like to put things away in hidden cabinets or storage. And that doesn't work for me because I'm a really visual person and I'm a visual organizer. And so for a long time, I thought that I was not an organized person. And I'm a really organized person, and people who know me would think, no, that can't be right. But it's because the organizational tools that we're marketed to are really for a different type of organizer. So when I started using command hooks and visual organizational tools, that changed my life. And so maybe think about, do you like to have things sitting out in piles? Do you like to see things that are visible? If it's out of sight, out of mind, then you probably would do really well to have a lot of hooks or clear bins or things where you can see what you need. And so today might be the time where you think about decluttering and organizing some hot spots where it's, the entry, by your door. It's where you store your keys or your wallet or your purse or your work bag. Those are some things that can really help functionality. And it's not tearing your entire closet apart, but it's making little baby steps toward, goals that are going to make you have more time and feel less stressed. So really make sure that you're just baby stepping your way to any changes you're making right now. And then meal prep, I think, is so important, particularly with grocery stores, having limitations on what you can purchase, and some grocery stores running out of things some weeks can be difficult to meal plan and prep. And you may not always have everything on hand. If you're like most Americans, the vast majority of Americans, based on statistics, eat out for most meals every week. So, cooking all of these meals at home can be really challenging, but it can be really challenging on your budget right now to eat out every meal as well. And so try to plan out your meals each week and try to pick meals that are going to use the same staple ingredients and try to have those on hand. And make sure if you have a young family, or even if you have older kids who are in the home who might be selective eaters, I hate to call them picky eaters, but selective about what they eat. We definitely have a few of those in this house. Then make sure they're kid friendly and they're healthy. And you may even want to try using a snack basket, either one basket for the whole family to share, or even better, what I do is I have a basket of snacks that I can pull from, but then each kid in our family has their own placemat at the dining table to kind of help, prevent too much, spillage and damage to their table. So I put their snacks on their placemat for the day, and then when they've run out of their snack on their placemat, then they know that, that they need to wait till dinner time. And now, of course, there's exceptions to that. Maybe they do need a pick me up or something, but that will help them asking you, "Hey, Mom, can I have a snack? What can I have?" You've already given them their options, and then they can just go and choose from those. And that will cut down on a lot of the questions that you get. And then include your family in the meal planning and prep. When you let them choose some of the things that they want to eat, they're much more likely to eat them. And even if it's not something that they enjoy, like maybe they don't enjoy a pizza with all of those toppings that's in the photograph right there, maybe they just want plain cheese or pepperoni, which is most kids. Even if they don't enjoy that kind of pizza, if they help prepare it and they planned for it, they're more likely to at least try it. And it takes kids usually an average of 5 to 10 times trying something before they actually develop a taste for it and like it. So don't give up. So we kind of have this, try bite, kind of unofficial guideline in our family of we always ask our kids to at least try a bite of something that's prepared. We don't force them to eat it, but we do ask them to take a bite and try it, because a lot of times they do like it. And over time, they definitely end up liking it, because their kids, their taste, their changes, their preferences, that's going to fluctuate. So make sure that you don't think that because at 3 years old they said no to broccoli that they're never going to eat broccoli. They don't eat broccoli because we stop introducing it to them. And then ask them for their suggestions. Maybe they have something that they would really like to see on the menu for the week. And then try to stockpile some things, but not hoarding. So make sure you have a week or two of meals and things, simple meals that you can throw together in under 30 minutes or less. And if you have an Instant Pot or a crock pot or something like that, now is a great time to use that. That will really cut down on some of the prep time that you're using. And then I'm going to talk about morning, afternoon, and evening routines. So I'm going to give you 5 or so tips for how to have a good morning, afternoon, and evening routine. So for morning, like I said, prepare tonight for tomorrow. So wake up 30 minutes or an hour ahead of your family. That's always a good tip, because you never want to start out the day with a kid asking you something as soon as you open your eyes. That already makes you feel like you're behind. And then try to eat a healthy breakfast and hydrate, and definitely plan out your breakfast the night before, because when you're groggy and tired and kids are asking you questions and you're checking emails already, that can be difficult to make a healthy breakfast choice. And then complete that morning routine that we talked about earlier, and then go ahead and get ready for the day. And then for your afternoon, I've got this at about 3 o'clock, because I think 3 o'clock is when we kind of hit that slump. We have a couple of more hours usually in our day that we need to do some productive work, but we're still kind of, tired, and we're not sure if we can make it to that 5 o'clock hour. So establish an after school, after workday routine. So for those of you who are schooling at home right now, I'm going to talk about some tips for that. So if you're having to really give some instruction or create some lesson plans or follow up on lesson plans that you've been provided by your school system, then after school and after work, we still need to kind of keep those, hours where we're focused on that work or that school. And so have kind of that, end of work day for the kids too. And then prepare and eat dinner together. I think that's really helpful. And do a 10-minute tidy of your house either before or after dinner. That will help kind of contain the messes and things that are going to crop up, especially when you have lots of arts and crafts and things that you're doing. And then put all work and school materials away, and then just take a break and kind of rest and relax before, you kind of wind down for the night. You want to have some good downtime as a family together. And sometimes what I've learned with my kids is that when we're doing something fun, but it feels more like an activity. For my kids, they'll say, "Oh, mom, is this schoolwork?" And I think it's a fun activity, but because I haven't framed it as a fun activity, they think that I'm making them do schoolwork at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, when really what I'm doing is I'm trying to have a fun craft activity, and they see it as school because I didn't frame it as, "Hey, we're going to do this fun family activity." So framing things and setting your kids up for what your expectations are really important. And then an evening routine. So spend some good family time together, make bedtime special, especially if you have young children. Check those emails and notifications one last time. Just say you're not feeling completely disconnected from what's going on. And then check your calendar again in that to-do list, and then do that power down hour. So some of the tips that I shared earlier in the presentation, I'm plugging these in so you can kind of see where I do these in a day. And then schooling at home. I'm not calling it homeschooling because this is not what homeschooling looks like. So for those of you who are having to school at home right now, this is not what a typical homeschool day looks like for parents, for most parents and families. So schooling at home, keep it simple. Kids learn in everyday moments, and they are going to learn a lot from you. They're going to learn a lot about Zoom calls. They're going to learn a lot about time management and what you do for work. So you don't have to be schooling for 7 or 8 hours a day. Typically, elementary school kids, junior high kids, they're in school about 7.5 hours a day. And know that that's not all one-on-one instruction. So a good general rule of thumb is to school your kids for about 3.5 to 4 hours as it's age appropriate, because your kids are going to PE, they're going to the lunchroom for lunch, they're taking restroom breaks, they're not having one-on-one time the entire time they're doing their math lesson. They're going to get, some one-on-one time when they have questions or when the teacher comes by to check their answers, but they're not having someone sitting with them probably, most likely, for 30 minutes going over their math. So that time really gets compounded when you're able to do one-on-one time with them. And then follow their lead. So when they have things that they want to do and it's something that you can make educational, then definitely try that. Use your resources wisely. Netflix has some great documentaries. One is called Our Planet, and it's a really great one to teach things about nature and science and even some history and geography. So our kids have been watching Our Planet on the Netflix documentary series. Join some groups for suggestions. So I popped one in the slide so that you could see it. It's called Emergency Homeschooling, but they really recognize that this is not what homeschool looks like. But there are new families who are having to school at home in this group, and there are families who have been seasoned homeschoolers who are helping mentor and answer questions and provide resources. And there's so many free resources right now during this COVID-19 pandemic that are available to you, not only for schooling at home, but for your own personal growth and development. There's, lots of free exercise, and fitness virtual classes that you can join. So I would say really take advantage of those free resources while they're available to us right now. And this homeschooling group, this emergency homeschooling on Facebook, was actually created because of the COVID-19 specifically. So there are lots of parents who are feeling really overwhelmed, but who are starting to get their feet under them as they start to school their kids at home. And then read together, take walks, plan family time, make it fun. And, if they have a lot of questions, maybe tell them to go look it up. So when I was a kid, we did not have Google and all those things. I was an 80s baby. And so my mom would always tell me, "I don't know, Abby, go look that up." And what that meant is I went to the 1986 encyclopedia set that we had, and I looked up what my question was. And if I didn't find the answer, then I found something else to occupy my time. So the encyclopedia was my mom's answer to too many questions. For me, we were late to the party, but we do have an Alexa Echo Dot now. And so when my kids ask me a lot of questions, I have them go and ask Alexa. It was $30 on Amazon, and I certainly am not promoting Amazon or the Echo Dot, but it's my encyclopedia version of getting the kids to go ask somebody else when I know they've asked me or their dad a lot of questions for the day. So that has been really helpful. It's one of those moments where we have to pick our battles, and that's one that has been really helpful. So maybe that's a good tip for y'all. Um, or you might even have them ask Siri on your phone. That's another option. But kids under 5, of course, are going to need more attention. So newborns to age 5 or 6, they're going to need more undivided attention, and you really have to just give yourself grace. Try the sample schedule that I gave y'all. Try to use afternoon naps and quiet time for your rest, or for you to focus on more, challenging work that you need to have your undivided attention with. If feasible, ask for help. Maybe it's a partner, a spouse, and maybe it's going to bed a little bit later. Maybe it's waking up a little bit earlier. Um, Maybe you need just to have margin in your day to know that if you have a young baby or toddler and they're going to need a snack or they're going to need a bottle, that you know that you can't participate in a Zoom call, or you can't, be available during those times. So kind of set office hours for yourself, for your family, and for work. And then prioritize your rest and take frequent breaks. And again, it's all about grace when you have kids under age 5 or 6. For elementary school kids, having a schedule that you stick to, even if it's not time-based, even if it's not tied to a specific time, mapping out what that day is going to look like for your kids and helping them be as independent as possible is really important right now. And scheduling your work and schooling around times where you know that you've got to be available, to be able to do, certain tasks for work. Or maybe it's the ballet class like we have that we have to be available for at 3 this afternoon. So just building in those times where you still do have to be in real time is important, because when you're trying to do too many things at one time, you're going to get overwhelmed and frustrated easily. And then use those online resources that I mentioned to educate and entertain your kids. And education can be entertaining, and entertainment can be educational. So they are not separate things. So just because they're watching a Netflix documentary on our planet doesn't mean that they're not both getting educated and entertained. And then thank your kids and offer them appreciation for their help. So, thank them for being quiet while you're on this call. Um, and then again, help them transition between work and school mode to family mode. And then middle and high school students, and I would say even college students, preparing them for their daily schedule is important too, mapping out expectations, helping them be independent, taking time to listen to them, acknowledging their feelings, determining if they need help, and if so, how much help do they need. I have a 12-year-old who is that middle school age, and so she still needs help, but she is really, specific about the kind of help that she wants to receive from me. And so asking them about that, acknowledging how they're feeling right now. They may be grieving some things that you don't even know about. They may have some anticipatory grief. You might have some anticipatory grief. I know that my 12-year-old is concerned that her ballet recital is going to be canceled in May, and it may. But we're having to really walk through, like, this is why this is important, and this is how we're going to face that if that becomes an issue. And then again, determine what kind of help they need with their schoolwork, and check in with their teachers, because they may be more independent, so you may not be as tied into what's going on with that. Prioritize time for their friends. So let them have virtual chats with their friends, particularly high school students. I know I have some nieces in high school who are having difficult times being separated from, um, you know, all of their friend groups, and missing proms and graduation. And I have a niece graduating this year, and as a senior in high school. And so that's a really difficult time for her. So trying to offer extra support, carving out one-on-one time for them with you and one parent or both parents is important. And we're just remembering that they may not ask for your help, or they may not tell you that they're upset about something, but they still need your help, and they still need that encouragement. And I would say the same is true for college students. I don't have a college student, but I have many friends who do, and even their college students are having a difficult time and needing that extra support, but they're less likely to ask us for it. So check in with them. And then I would say to play. Scheduling time for fun ensures that you have time for fun. So, unplugging, resetting, resting, being really intentional about being playful and having fun and laughing. Making it a goal to laugh every day. Discovering your inner child and letting that child play. What did you enjoy doing when you were a kid? What did your kids enjoy doing when they were younger? Try new things, especially once we have the opportunity to get out and about again. You know, I always ask people, when's the last time you did something for the first time, because we get stuck in ruts. So try new things often, hug, laugh. When you hug, 20 seconds is usually the benefit that you get from hugging. The good hormone release that you get requires 20 seconds. Cry, it may even be happy tears, it may not be happy tears. And then infuse your joy into your work and into your family, and try to do one small act of kindness a day. And I think that's important right now. And we can even do it while we socially isolate. Navigate disappointment, you know, have daily check-ins with your kids. Like I said, acknowledge their feelings, acknowledge your feelings. Remind your children why things have changed, and discuss any upcoming changes with them, and limit their exposure to the news. And I think that's important to do for all of us. And then know that sadness may look different. It may look like misbehavior. It may look like, you know, saying that this is stupid, I don't want to do this work. Or it may look like, I don't want to go for a walk, I'm too tired. Or maybe I'm bored, or I didn't want that for dinner. And so just know that those all may be things that are related to sadness and some grief in your kids. And then I think it's important to celebrate with intention. So host a virtual party. So we're going to do that for my boys who are turning 10. We're going to decorate just like we always did. We ordered, you know, birthday supplies online and had them delivered. And, you know, we're going to have a virtual party and let them call and chat with their friends and with their grandparents. You know, you can do a virtual tour of museums or, you know, fun sites around the world. You can help your child prepare fun desserts or a special meal for a holiday. So some holidays are coming out soon. You might want to do something special. You might want to go on an adventure, you know, with the whole household. You might want to call them, you know, in friends and family and sing happy birthday if they have a happy birthday coming up. Share, you know, things online, share things, you know, virtually. Host a family movie night or game night. Mail a, you know, a letter or a card. So we did that to our parents, grandparents this past week. We mailed cards and postcards, and we, you know, have stayed more in touch now than ever because we're being more intentional about it. And then you can do a search for hashtag COVID kindness and celebrate the good. So a lot of people are actually using that hashtag on social media to share some good things that are coming out of this situation. And so always remember to celebrate the good. You know, it's like the radio talk show host that says, tell me something good. So we always want to have good news and celebrate that. So those are some things that you can do to celebrate with an intention and try to really counteract that disappointment that we're navigating right now. And so another thing to think about is having something to look forward to. And so maybe you want to have a bucket list of things that you want to do once we're able to return back to, you know, our kind of norm, our typical day. And so a 2-2-2 rule is to have something on the horizon. So every 2 weeks, to go out for the evening. This could be family or, you know, a loved one. Every 2 months, go out for a weekend, and every 2 years, go out for a week. And so that's a good relationship advice. You know, 2-2-2 rule for on the horizon, but I like to make it really more generic than that and say, you know, every, you know, 3 to 4 months, you know, 3 to 4 times a year, once a quarter, do something fun, have something to look forward to, because we really like to have something on the horizon, something that we're excited about, something that makes us want to get out of the bed in the morning and kind of tackle our day, something we're going to really look forward to. And that can be a trip, but it doesn't have to be extravagant. It could be a coffee date with your friend. It could be, you know, getting a manicure or pedicure. It could be a golf afternoon, you know, whatever makes you happy and bring you joy. It can be something really, really simple. And then this is a toolkit of resources. And I know we're at our time, but I'm just going to briefly go through these. And if you can stay on the call, then we're happy to have you stay. But I want to make sure that you get to see the toolkit of resources. And so this is going to help with rhythms and routines, but also with productivity and stress management. And so, you know, prioritization, when you think about those to-do lists that I mentioned, eat the frog, it's doing the thing that you dread the first thing in the morning. It also could be the thing that's the most important. And it's a book that Brian Tracy wrote that really talks about this principle, but it was based on a Mark Twain quote about, if you eat the frog first thing in the morning, it's the worst thing you'll do all day. And that's why we often are told to exercise first thing in the morning, because it gives us that little boost of confidence that we've done something good for the day. And then the Pomodoro technique is really, it's a tomato timer. It's Italian for tomato. And many of you might have had a tomato timer in your kitchen, in years gone by. And it really recommends that you identify a task and set a timer. This says 25 minutes, but I would say 45 minutes and then take a 15-minute break. So work for 45 minutes, take a 15-minute break, and do that for a period of 4 hours, and then take a longer extended break, an hour or two. And that's a great technique that I teach students to do when they're studying or they have a big project coming up. And you're amazed when you use this technique and timer at how much productivity you have when you are really focused and intentional. You're kind of racing the clock, and it's really helpful, especially if you're competitive. We can get competitive with our work if we set that timer. Here are some practical tips just about, what's important now is the very last thing. It's an acronym for just doing the thing that needs to get done, building in that accountability, maybe using earphones or earplugs while you're working, setting those office hours, pretending like you're not at home, muting your distractions, literally and figuratively. So those are some good practical tips. Staying connected, again, we've talked about this. It's so important. We say social distancing, but we really mean physical distancing. So, don't disconnect socially. Just do what you need to do to be able to be safe and keep that 6 feet distance apart. But you can still do calls and texts and cards, and you can still have social connection during this time. So make sure you stay connected with friends, family, and your coworkers. And then maintaining normalcy. This is a YouTube video that you can Google, but really it just talks about tuning into your needs, controlling what you can control, practicing mindfulness, and focusing on your breathing. And I'm going to share a resource on that. And then here are some wellness basics if you're struggling. You may have been struggling before the COVID-19 crisis, and now maybe it's just amplifying the things that you want to work on. And I know that's true for me. So these are the tips I tell people, 5 to thrive. And these are the things I tell people to really focus in on. So sleeping well, staying hydrated, striving for a healthy plate. So you're eating all of the colorful foods, eating the rainbow. That's what that means. Moving your body every day. That's really important as we're sitting at our desk much more than we were probably before. And then meditation, even just 3 to 5 minutes a day. And meditation doesn't mean that you're free of thought and that you're, in that traditional sense. You can meditate in your chair just by closing your eyes and being silent and acknowledging the thoughts that come and go. Then these are some good self-care strategies. I've mentioned many of these, but definitely move your body and get outside, listen to music. Those are some of the best self-care strategies that you can have. And again, this is going to be available to you. Manage your email. I think that's so important. Email is always difficult to manage, but particularly right now when it's one of our main forms of communication while we're not in our offices. And so these are some practical tips. I would recommend, if you want these, to just do a really quick screenshot of them. I think that that's really helpful. Checking your email, my favorite tip on here is to check your email frequently, but only sit down to respond a few times a day. Because if you're constantly checking your email and constantly responding, then you're getting behind a lot and you're feeling like you're constantly working, but you're not productive. So I always frequently check my email, but I will only process it a few times a day because that's a big time saver. But it also helps me stay aware and connected so that if something comes up immediately that's time sensitive, I can take care of that. That's my favorite tip. And then here are some productivity, tasks that you can do, but they're really simple. Most of them are free. And these will things, that will make you feel like you've spent this time at home being really productive and connected. So again, I would say take a good screenshot of these. I think these are some good tips. They'll make you feel like you've been working and accomplishing something both with work and with family. Okay. And then Mel Robbins has a technique 5-4-3-2-1, and it's how to get unstuck. So she was an attorney who was having a life crisis, and she was going through a bout of depression, and she decided that it was really difficult for her to get out of bed in the morning. And so she imagined that she was a rocket, and then she would blast off and she would say, Mel, I'm going to get up. And she'd close her eyes and she'd say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then she'd blast off like a rocket and she'd get out of bed. And now she's a best-selling author and has completely changed her life. And she wrote the book, The 5-Second Rule. And she talks about having that moment of courage in the morning to change your whole day, which changes your life. And so I think that's a great technique. I use it a lot when I want to get on a roller coaster. I want to ride a roller coaster, but I'm scared. And so I'll say, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'll get on the roller coaster because I'm a little bit scared of those. I'm afraid of heights. But, you know, you can apply that to every day. You know, maybe you need to make a difficult phone call and you can 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here are some great productivity resources. These are all podcasts, except for the last one is The Miracle Morning, and it's a book, and it has a lot of great tips and resources. A lot of the things that I pulled from today is from that book and those teachings, and so these are some great things. Podcasts, and that last one is The Miracle Morning book, and it's a great resource. And then here are some TED Talks. Carol Dweck is really well known for the power of mindfulness and mindset. So this is a TED Talk that you can watch. And then this is one on how to make stress your friend by Kelly McConaughey. And it's a great resource as well. And then a breathing technique with Danette May. And she's on YouTube, so you can just do a search for her, and she has some great breathing techniques. We don't often take time to breathe the way that we should, so it talks about breathing in and taking some good, deep cleansing breaths and getting some good oxygenation on board. So important to take care of our lungs right now, and this is a great way to start a practice of that. It also helps with stress and anxiety, so you might want to start a breathing practice, and she walks you through how to do that. And then here's some great tools for stress management. Again, a good screenshot of this would be helpful. The top row is you know, free apps that you can use, some yoga with Adrienne that you can use for YouTube, completely free online, and she walks you through for beginners. And then totally stress-free on Spotify is a playlist we're playing in our house a lot right now. And then an affirmation with I am surrounded by love, all is well. I think that's a good one to repeat. And then this is a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, but it's a grounding exercise to help with anxiety. So you just look around your environment and you're using, you know, your 5 senses to really connect and be grounded. So these are some good ones too. And then we would love for you to continue following us on our website, Facebook, and Instagram, and certainly look out for emails as we update and keep you informed. And all of these, you know, resources, webinars, and things will be posted on the wellness.ua.edu website. So we would love for you to check those out. And we do offer health and life coaching. I'm a certified coach, and so if you'd like resources, have questions, you're welcome to email me. And I am going to check the Q&A box. Okay, someone said their internet has been down this morning. Yes, I woke up to a power outage this morning, so I was very concerned about the internet connection as well. I'm glad you were able to join us, Marty. And then planning meals as a single person's hard. It is hard. How do you suggest someone do that? I would say to try to freeze things. So if you pick up meals, or you, you know, maybe make a meal that's really intended for 2 or 4, if you can turn those into something else. So maybe if you ground, you know, some meat, if you're a meat eater, you might, you know, use it for, you know, a soup one day, and you might use it for a sandwich the next day. Or you can do the same thing with vegetables. If you're using, you know, good plant proteins, you can substitute just like you would with meat and do the same thing. And I think freezing meals, I think sharing meals, maybe you share with a neighbor. I think there's some great ways that you can do that while still maintaining social distancing. And giving yourself grace. Maybe you, you know, maybe your meals look differently right now. I think that's something that you can do. You know, we're having more cereal at our house than I would care for, but it's something that is a temporary, you know, situation. And if they eat a little bit more cereal this week and next week, that'll be okay. And just remember to adjust. But I would say, you know, the more, you know, healthy meals that you cook, the more real foods that you cook, the easier it is to portion out. When you're buying pre-cooked things and when you're picking up meals, which is certainly very tempting right now, it is for me for sure with my family of 7, it is harder to portion those out, and some things don't freeze well. But Instant Loss, I have no connection to them, but Instant Loss on Instagram and Facebook has some really great healthy meals for stovetop oven and the Instant Pot. So it's the Instant Lost Community by I believe Brittany Williams is a great one. So that might be a good resource. I hope that answers your question about the meals. And this will not be emailed out, Denise, but it will be available on the wellness website. So if you know wanted to get anything from the presentation or ask questions or anything like that, you can reach out to me, but it'll be available shortly. I see there's one more question. What would you suggest to get a family who likes to nap during the day to be up and motivated? We're a family of nappers and day sleepers, unfortunately. Well, I think that that is probably true of many of us because we probably are just out of our routines. So I would say setting a good nighttime ritual, like the evening routine, will be helpful. So if you have a good structured routine in the evening and then you set the alarm clock in the morning, you know, plan a fun breakfast or plan something that makes you want to get out of bed in the morning to go do. Maybe you go pick up breakfast in the drive-through or something like that. It's going to have to be really, you know, probably unique and flexible during this season because we can't go out for too many things. But, you know, going to bed, you know, that 9 or 10 o'clock time frame, probably earlier for kids, and then having something early in the morning to get excited about is probably the best way to get up and motivated. And then showering and changing out of your pajamas is huge. Even if you don't get dressed up like you're going to work or school, if you just get up and put on something besides pajamas or loungewear is really, really helpful because I know it changes my mindset for sure when I have to get up and put on a dress and real shoes versus, you know, sweatpants or leggings. I have a totally different mindset. I hope that's helpful. Do y'all have any more questions, or can y'all let me know in the chat if this is helpful? I hope that you can take some of the nuggets and apply some things. Don't get overwhelmed. Just pick a couple of areas and a couple of things to start trying to make some changes. Don't try to change everything or implement everything that I've shared this week. You'll get overwhelmed. I don't see any other questions. Okay, thank you. It was helpful. Good. Thank you so much. I'm glad it was helpful. Yes, I want you to know I'm living this with you. So I have 5 kids that I can hear in the background, and thankfully my puppy has been very well behaved. I haven't heard him this morning, but I'm right there with you. And when I sign off, I've got another call today this afternoon that I'm so excited about, and schooling my kids. And so I'm right there with you. I understand. We're in this together. But it's a privilege to get to work with all of you and to get to talk with you. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Good. I'm glad this has been helpful. Well, all right. Well, thank you so much. Again, feel free to reach out to me at my email address if you have any questions or want to follow up with anything. And just remember, give yourself grace during this time. I know it's hard, but we're going to get through this together. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of love and learning that we come out of this with. So just have that grace, y'all, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.